Hi everybody. So, continuing with the progress from the last video, we just finished putting on most of the ribs, still have one to put on here. The flanges of the main spar have been primed, the rib flanges had all been primed, the flap brackets had all been put in place. And so here I am just putting the actual aileron torque tube bracket onto the number one rib. The amazing part, so what you saw a little bit earlier, I was trying to squeeze some of those rivets in front of the camera, which I thought would be really nice to have something where you could see the rivets. You know, every once in a while I want to show a close-up of something that I'm working on. And so I do it, and I don't have any way of telling my future self that, oh, by the way, you did something in front of the camera that you should show at normal speed. Yeah, because that would just be too easy. So naturally, I did not. And I apologize. Still trying to figure out how to make that work, but that's okay. Helping our mechanic out real quick. Got a new parts locker for the hangar for all of the expensive stuff and all of his inventory. We have a very good relationship with our club mechanic, so he's an independent mechanic, but he's actually contracted to the club. The FAA disallows freelance A&P mechanics to work in major airports because you need to be bonded and have insurance. However, our mechanic is a member of our club, and he's actually contracted to the club. So the club itself is actually a carrier, almost like not like an FBO, but we're basically an air carrier. We've got 5 planes, a lot of pilots. So we are allowed to have as many maintenance officers or maintenance mechanics as we want to work on our planes. I could have 10 if I really wanted to, but they can only work on our planes. They can't work on anyone else's planes at the airport. So, but he's still technically not a full-time employee. So anyway, he's putting in a nice big locker so we can have, because he's got a huge inventory full of parts, all these rivets and AN hardware and avionics and pieces of the plane, stuff that he's collecting, and so we allow him to keep that there. There's Mr. Drew, one of our instructors, coming by to say hi. So one of the things I'm doing here is tightening up those bolts. As I mentioned before, you really need, for those 4 interior ribs, you really got to put those bolts in the right direction, and then you got to go back and you got to torque them, right? So there's Mikey. AN3 bolts require, I believe it was 26 inch-pounds of pressure, or about 2 foot-pounds. I've got a handy little thing for that. So before everything is riveted in, so one of the things, and I honestly, I'd forgotten to do this on the other wing, and thankfully it doesn't harm anyone, is you need to actually rivet the rib on the flanges to the main spar. There's 2 holes for each. All the ones on the interior side, you need to rivet one out of those 2 holes, because you'll never need to rivet the other hole. The other hole gets riveted when the skins get put on. That's where the fuel tank is. So the front skin that would normally, on the outboard edge, overlap with a trailing edge that never moves, the tank can move. So because of that, we have to do 1 each, and it's kind of a hard explanation. It's one of those things you have to read in the instructions. So anyway, I was kind of doing that now. And then after this, we will start to work on the rear spar. So I will see you soon.